Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask. Today's show is Vitiligo. Hurry back and join us. Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask. Today's show is Vitiligo, and we have with us Dr. Henry Lim, Chair of Dermatology at Henry Ford Hospital. Good morning, Dr. Lim.
Good morning, Marsha. How are you?
I'm fine, and I
Good.
want to thank you so much for having us today.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Now, Dr. Lim, we know that you are Chair of Dermatology, and mainly I know that that's got something to do with skin. Okay.
Correct.
But today's show topic is about vitiligo. Can you tell us a little bit about vitiligo?
Vitiligo, Marsha, is a condition where the skin loses its pigment, and because of that, one develops white patches on the skin. And the reason the skin loses the pigment is that because the body makes a chemical that kills off the cells that normally would make pigment on our skin. And because the cells are killed, because of that, there is no pigment on the area. So the area could be quite patchy, meaning could be spots here and there. Very commonly, face is involved, not infrequently the back of the hands, the tip of the fingers would be involved. It could involve also the body. Clearly, because there is a loss of pigment, the effect is more noticeable, or most noticeable in individuals of color. Darker the skin, the more noticeable the loss of pigment would be. In very fair-skinned individual, it may be very subtle, and it is a condition that can affect pretty much everybody. General patient population, approximately 1 to 3% of the population can be affected with vitiligo. It affects all races on all ethnic groups.
Okay. Now, is there any signs or symptoms that a person would notice that may be signs of vitiligo at all?
Actually, there is none, in the sense that it doesn't itch, it doesn't hurt, its color just disappears. So in the beginning, a person may notice a lighter patch of skin, and then as time goes on, the skin becomes whiter. Sometimes it is just discoloration of the skin, but not infrequently it can develop into vitiligo.
Okay. What about age groups? Is there any particular age groups that are affected?
No. It is definitely more common to occur in younger individual, and then it would persist. But we have seen at Henry Ford, we have a multicultural dermatology center, and we see many patients with vitiligo. Some of them are quite old, some of them are very young. So it can occur all age groups.
Okay. So when you say quite old or quite young, it can come at any time in the age.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. More
Okay.
commonly among the young adult, that's when it starts, but it can occur younger than young adults. It can occur in childhood. It can also occur in patients who are 60s and 70s.
Right. Okay. Is it curable?
It is not completely curable. That is one of the reasons at our hospital and the department Multicultural Dermatology Center, we do have a lot of research in trying to find out more as to how to manage patients with vitiligo, how to treat the conditions, and try to understand what is the underlying cause of vitiligo. There are, however, multiple treatment modalities that have been used, and in the past 10 years, there have been a lot of advancement on those treatment modalities that have been quite effective.
Okay. So there is some form of medicine that can slow it down or
Right.
decrease its rapidness?
There are definitely medications that can be used that range from, usually the first start is to use cream and ointment. There are cortisone cream that can be used, and more commonly we use a topical immune modulator. We call it calcineurin inhibitors to treat these patients with vitiligo with cream and ointment alone. Those would work only for patients with localized or limited amount of vitiligo. With patients with extensive vitiligo covering a lot of parts of the body, it is clearly not practical to ask them to put the cream all over the body. So for those individuals, if they wish to have treatment, the next step in terms of therapeutic ladder, we call it treatment ladder, the next step would be to use ultraviolet light. not X-ray, but ultraviolet light, that we call it narrowband ultraviolet B. And that has been quite effective. Approximately 70% of the patients would respond to that type of treatment in the sense of color coming back out. Doesn't mean every single spot would recover, but at least there'll be color coming back on.
Okay. Now, I noticed in some cases it affects the scalp.
Yes.
Okay. Is there treatment for the scalp, or is just gradual that the hair will come out or turn a different color?
The hair could turn into different color. That is the interesting part of this particular process, because sometimes patients could have very extensive vitiligo, yet the hair would be of normal color. But in some other patients, they have a small area of involvement, and the hair in that area would turn white because essentially the pigments in the hair roots has been also damaged by the process. For the scalp, the hair usually doesn't come out, just a different color.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them. Beat them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad
One more
today.
time. Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys.
If a natural disaster happened, we'd probably all meet around the grocery store.
We would all meet at a bus stop.
Oh, we'd probably meet at our neighbor's house.
Now, basically, I noticed that some people do not have blemishes or anything, and sometimes it's like loss of facial hair. Is that a part of it too, or that could be something else?
That could be most likely something else, because vitiligo does not affect the loss of hair or increase in hair. It would affect only the change in hair color. So it probably is something else. Something else that we have been developing actually at our center is the treatment, the surgical treatment for vitiligo, because aside from the cream and ointment, aside from ultraviolet light treatment that we have talked before, some patients may not respond to those. So the next level of treatment, which we create for selected group of patients, would be surgical treatment. And we are developing now a transplant method where we would remove a small piece of the patient's skin and literally transplant the cells to the area that has no pigment to get the pigment to grow on those cells, on those areas.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay. Is there a matter with sun? Are people with vitiligo supposed to stay out of the sun, or does it matter?
Well, it's a very interesting and good question to ask also, because patients with vitiligo definitely would get sunburn much quicker than normal because the skin has no pigment. Normally our pigment is the one that protects us from getting sunburn. So they should avoid the sun because they would get sunburn. Many of them, they learned about it already, so they don't go out much to the sun. So yes, they can get sunburn. We have recently completed actually studies of over 400 patients to look at whether patients with vitiligo had any probability of increasing skin cancer rate in them. Indeed, those patients can have skin cancer, but the rate is not higher than the average general patient populations, but they can develop skin cancer also. So one has to be careful with those group of patients.
Well, Dr. Lim, you gave us a world of information today, and we really do appreciate it, because when this show airs, there's going to be a lot of people who may have asked the questions at home, and I hope that I've asked you to clear up some of the questions that they have, and we definitely want to peek in at the support group as well.
Sure.
Okay, so I want to thank you.
Thank you very much, Marsha. Thank you.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we got more good information about vitiligo. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Troy Gentry of Montgomery Gentry. From a mom struggle with cancer, I know the impact life-threatening disease can have on a family. Unfortunately, even having health insurance doesn't always guarantee you to be able to receive the care prescribed by your doctor. And for those without insurance, it can be impossible. Whether you have no health insurance or facing health insurance denials, the nonprofit
and welcome back to the second half of the show. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just not joining us, today's subject matter is about vitiligo, and we now have in the, well, not in the studio, we're here at the Henry Ford Health Center on West Grand Boulevard in Detroit. We now have with us Lee Thomas, anchor news person for Fox 2 Detroit. Good morning, Lee.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here with us. Now, you know, we came here especially today to get some insight about vitiligo, but we first want to find out some information about yourself.
I'm an anchor here in Detroit. I've been here for 12 years. I've been in the business since '91. I could go way back, and I started in TV with my own show in college, way back in
Okay.
It was 1988.
Okay.
And then when I graduated in '91, I was on a show in New York called Channel 1. It still goes to high schools all over the country. From there, I went to another show called Louisville Tonight Live. From there, I went back to New York and worked for WABC in New York. Finally, got the golden job here in Detroit as an anchor and entertainment reporter, and I've been here ever since. And they're going to have to pry me out of the chair with a crowbar because I'm staying.
Okay.
But that's my background in television.
Okay. Well, you know what? You did it all in less than 5 seconds, so that was great, because just knowing the history of that all together is wonderful. You know, so we know why you speak so well and deliver such a warm wealth of information when it comes to the entertainment. We can't wait to see you. You make everything sound so nice and seem like so much fun. So now we know why. Okay. The working history. Now, you know, today is a different subject for us. Outside of your regular day job, we need to know your involvement with the vitiligo the support group. So we're here at Henry Ford, one of the health centers. So give us some insight on your role.
Yeah, Henry Ford has been unbelievably gracious in helping me set up a support group and facilitate that support group. And we're in the multicultural dermatology area. It's one of the only multicultural dermatology centers in the country. There are some of the best doctors here at Henry Ford, and that's what brought me to him initially as a patient. I have vitiligo. It's a disease that takes the pigment away from your skin. It's very noticeable. It's shocking. It's disturbing. It's troubling. It's a lot of things that a lot of people have trouble dealing with, as I did when I first got the disease. I thought it was the end of my career. I thought it was the end of a lot of things that I worked very hard for. I paid for myself to go through college. I mean, I worked just as hard as any other brother out there trying to do his thing to make my career happen, to make my life's dream happen, and it did. Then I got this disease, and I thought it was the end, and found out that it was not the end. It was a new beginning. So with this new beginning, I got a lot of attention really quick. Larry King, 2020. Larry King goes all over the world. I did not know that. I was in an airport in Germany, and somebody goes, "Are you the Lee Thomas?" I said, "I am one of the Lee Thomases." He said, "I saw you on the Larry King, and you're amazing at what you've done for people with this disease." It's just amazing how my story has crossed the globe. Anyway, with that, I've become unofficial spokesman that's become the official spokesman for the disease. And I found that a lot of people were having the same difficulties, if not more, than I had with this disease, meaning they didn't come outside, they didn't interact with public, they had their lives halted because of disease that they have no control over. And because of that, I started this support group with Dr. Lim here at Henry Ford. And the support group has been great. It's for patients. There's a doctor there at every support group. You do not have to be a patient at Henry Ford. All you have to do is show up. You can ask all the questions you want. And there's a support system there that a lot of people may not have known. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have diseases that are bigger than vitiligo or different from vitiligo. I say bigger only meaning that vitiligo is not life-threatening. This won't kill me. I mean, it's difficult to deal with, but I'm alive.
Now, let me ask you this. I mean, you know, you're providing a wealth of information, such as Dr. Lim did this morning with us, and we need to have people understand that when you're doing, you know, coming out like this, it's not just for yourself, it's to support and help others to understand what's going on in their lives and to connect. Okay, so when you first was diagnosed or found out yourself that you had it, did you have anyone you could connect with?
Who had vitiligo?
Yes.
No, there was no one. The only person that I knew of who had the disease was Michael Jackson, and nobody believed that he had the disease, and it was very difficult to find anyone else because as I've traveled, I've understood that a lot of people are shut-ins because of it. They don't come out of the house. And you don't see a lot of people walking around with this disease because they're not coming outside. It's 1% of the world population. That's 60 million people, 5 to 7 million in this country alone. And I believe it's more. It's just that they're not talking. So, no, I didn't have anybody to talk to. And it was a difficult process to get from I'm a black man turning white who works on TV every day, who's still going to have a job or not, to I'm not going to let this disease take my life or my life's dream. It was a difficult process to get there. But once I got there and started talking about my story, I found a lot more people.
Do you know that stroke targets by color? If you're African American, you're twice as likely to suffer a stroke as white Americans. Join the power to end stroke at strokeassociation.org.
And, you know, and that's an eye-opener in itself because, like you're saying, you know, people are staying home and they weren't sure. But did you find that you were the one that was spearheading the support group? I mean, actually putting it together and saying, hey, you know, I want everybody to know not just me, but someone who's like me needs help. You know, to talk to somebody because lately, just recently, I've talked to a coworker and he was saying his son has the condition and he's struggling with it. And I said, how old is he? He says, oh, he's 18, 19 years old. And to know that he's a young person, he may not have anybody to identify with. So, you know, I was telling him, I said, well, maybe you should come to the support group, you know, and get some insight. And to me, that's important. If a young person comes into a condition and they have no one to talk to, they need to find that, you know, that group, you know, if there is such a group. And at this point, that's why I was asking, do you feel like you're the person who's spearheading this and bringing this together, you and Dr. Lim, and, you know?
Well, I did initiate the process, but it wasn't me. I mean, I facilitated and made it happen because I got so much attention. But honestly, I was a guy who was working and just living with, okay, I'm going to live with this and I'm going to live through this no matter what, because I wasn't going to give up. You know, God gives you this life to work with, and that's it. He doesn't promise anything else, you know, and that's all I need. That's the gift that you get. So this disease was just something I had to deal with. So I'm working with my blinders on, not really thinking about it, and I got a call from a young man. He called me and simply said, would you show yourself on TV? If you show what you look like, maybe people will treat me differently. And I said, yes, immediately, I will. But I said, why? Why? He goes, well, there's a kid I know who's 8 who has this disease, and he wears a ski mask to go outside and play every day because the kids tease him so much. And I said, man, of course I'll tell my story if it helps you and that other kid. And it was amazing that he called me for someone else. So he really initiated me speaking about the disease. I call this new mask that I wear the mask of a superhero, and my power is the power of speech, because I know I can talk. I can talk my way around any subject.
You're a good talker.
And because of that, I can apply it to this disease that I have for a lot of people who are suffering in silence. And my voice is being heard all over the globe. And it's something I never anticipated with. And I've interviewed some of the most famous people on the planet. And this is the story that is circling the planet. So, you know, I initiated, I guess. I started the support group, and I found people calling me around the country saying, we don't have a support group in Houston. Or North America, for that matter. We don't have a support group in Vancouver. We don't have a support group in Toronto. What have you done there? What do you do? So I found that just starting the support group sparked a fire that has burned throughout the country to
let me ask
start
you
others.
this. So in the support group, what would one find? What kind of information would one come across?
I try to let the support group, the people, try to decide what we talk about. We definitely address subjects. Dr. Lim, who has been instrumental in making this happen here at Henry Ford, provides information through experts. So like the support group we're having today, there's an expert here talking about a specific subject. We've talked about things from skin grafting and one of the latest technologies for vitiligo to a psychologist coming in talking about dealing with depression and other feelings that come along with having vitiligo. So we have experts in. Also, we talk about what I'm doing. I also started a charitable fund at the same time. The charitable fund, it makes money to give back to different vitiligo organizations. or any organization. So at the end of the year, we'll sit down and talk and say, this is where we want the money to go. So it's a variety of things that have come from that initial phone call from that kid. I look at myself as the conduit. It's not really about me anymore. It's really about all those other people, because I'm honestly, I'm very fortunate. Have a very good life, have a very good job, got people that love me. But if you know, really, when it comes down to it, it's about helping everyone else, like you're helping people with your show. You know, whatever voice you have, you use that voice to assist others.
Okay, you're going to make me cry. All right, okay. Well, Lee, we're going to take a break, and ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we're going to close with some good information about vitiligo. And you know what? You can't help but tune into this program, and if you have questions, you definitely want to contact Henry Ford Hospital and find some more information on the vitiligo itself or any condition, and talk to Dr. Lim or the staff itself to see if you are in need of some support. Okay, so we'll be right back.
Thank you, Marsha.
When I was president, diabetes affected nearly 10 million Americans. Today, more than 21 million children and adults are affected by diabetes, and another 54 million people are at risk of developing this disease. Type 2 diabetes can be prevented, and I want to encourage you to get involved and help stop this epidemic. Call the American Diabetes Association to get a special Jimmy Carter Diabetes Care Package.
In 1990, in Severn, Maryland, the daughter of a clergyman was discovered by a music industry insider while pumping gas at a service station. The odds of her getting signed and spending 11 weeks at #1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of this former church choir singer going on to sell 40 million records? 1 in 15 million. The odds of the same woman winning 6 Grammy Awards and starring in 2 Broadway plays? 1 in 75 million. The odds of this musician and performer having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150. I'm Toni Braxton, and I encourage you to learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
America's greatness was not crafted in skyscrapers alone, but on the ground by those who could see what needed to be done. Volunteers who in service stepped forward onto the dust of the moon, the levee in the heartland, the marble steps of a dream. You may ask yourself, where's my moon, my levee, my dream? Well, it's here, with you. Step forward. Help renew America at usaservice.org.
Talking, I was telling you guys that that I had been doing some different things with, you know, you had speakers and talk about what's healing and all that stuff. Well, I told you I thought I was onto something, and that I was going to try this something that I tried, that I was going to do. I did. And as you can see, this wasn't here before. All of it around my eyes was closed in more than it was before. Yeah, I have spots coming in all the way around my neck. The only place I don't have some stuff coming in is my hands and feet. But it's slowly sprinkling in everywhere. So I'll let you ask you. I just don't want to start talking because you know I can talk forever. I'll let you ask your specific questions if you have them. From the Crohn's to this, what did I do different? Okay, we can go all the way back to the Crohn's. I was diagnosed with Crohn's years ago. We're talking about 5 or 6 years ago. You guys know I'm not a big fan of prescription medication, steroids, Antibiotics, I'm not a fan of. So I went a different route using holistic supplements. And let me tell you something. I told you this before, and I'll reiterate it. I said to myself, how far will you go to cure this? How far will you go to figure it out? And my answer was, as far as it takes. With that as my premise, I've gone far. I've done a lot of things. But I'll stick specifically with the Crohn's, first of all, I'll make this simple. There was a book called The Maker's Diet. We had all we did. I followed that book. Didn't deviate from that book. I followed that book. I did some drastic things in the beginning, meaning I told you I had a really specific diet for 1 year, and then I followed that book after that diet. And then when the TLC people were here and I went to the doctor, another doctor who I've been working with, a holistic doctor, he did his testing on everything and said that Crohn's is non-detectable. I said, does that mean it's gone? I don't think it's gone. I just think it's not detectable like it was before. I knew that already. I knew it was different. I felt the difference. Now, then I started saying, let me figure out an approach to vitiligo. What did I do? Okay? I already was taking supplements, cod liver oil. I was taking the Recover. I think we talked about these things, which is a vitamin that's a combination of all of the vitamins and minerals that are in Skin Haven. It's you can go online and buy it. It's expensive. I use that twice a day. It's called Recover. I started doing something else that I did a liver cleanse. A liver cleanse. A lot of people don't believe in doing liver cleanse. I'm not a doctor. I want to keep repeating that. This is something that we're talking about as friend to friend. I'm not giving you any advice. If it doesn't work for you, I'm sorry. This is what I did, and I did it was a process of 8 weeks.
Is that something you take?
Another book I bought that describes how to do a liver cleanse. There's a variety of ways to do them. I talked to a few different people, including the other doctor that I work with, and he recommended. He said it won't hurt. I'm not going to tell you it's going to help. That's what he said. I'm sure that's what every doctor might say, but it might hurt, it might not. That's what I did. Okay?
What was the first thing you did before Recover? What did you say?
Cod liver.
Oh, cod liver.
That is more about the Crohn's than about vitiligo. Okay? That's more about easing digestion. After that, I started taking the Recover. I had these Ayurvedic pills that I got from a doctor in India, and I started taking the liver pills. Why did I do that? Because the vitamins and concentration of minerals that is in the liver are exactly what helps pigment. I read another book that's about 30 years old, and a person in Florida sent me sections of this book, which I have at home, and it was talking about an old, what do you call it, farmer's remedy for vitiligo was to eat raw liver. I ain't doing that. Okay? But I did try those liver pills. I did that for about 8 weeks, and on the 6th week.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the end of our show today here at Just As, and we had a wonderful time learning more information about the condition vitiligo. If you have a question for Dr. Lim, he can be contacted at Henry Ford Hospital. As well, if you have any questions or comments for Lee Thomas, anchor at Fox News, Fox Detroit News, you can contact him. As well as if you have a question for us here at Just As Talk Show, we can be contacted by our website, and you'll see the website at the bottom of the screen, justastalkshow.org. or give us a call at 248-988-0250. If you have a show idea that you would like for us to interview, please feel free to give us a call. I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask, and what do I always say? If you know someone with a disability, or if you just have a general question, don't be afraid to ask. Just Ask. I'm your host. Thank you.
last time we were talking, I was telling you guys that that I had been doing some different things with, we had speakers that talked about what's he doing and all that stuff. Well, I told you I thought I was onto something, and that I was going to try something that I tried, that I was going to do. I did. And as you can see, this wasn't here before. All of it around my eyes is closed in more than it was before. Yeah. I have spots coming in all the way around my neck. The only place I don't have some stuff coming in is my hands and feet. But it's slowly sprinkling in everywhere. So I'll let you ask you. I just don't want to start talking because you know I can talk forever. I'll let you ask your specific questions if you have them.
You already know my question, so please keep on going. What did you do different from the Crohn's to this? What
did I do different?
Yes.
Okay, we can go all the way back to the Crohn's.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with Crohn's years ago. We're talking about 5 or 6 years ago. You guys know I'm not a big fan of prescription medication, steroids, antibiotics. I'm not a fan of them. So I went a different route using holistic supplements. And let me tell you something. I told you this before, and I'll reiterate it. I said to myself, how far will you go to cure this? How far will you go to figure it out? And my answer was, as far as it takes. With that as my premise, I've gone far. I've done a lot of things. But I'll stick specifically with the Crohn's. First of all, I'll make this simple. There was a book called The Maker's Diet.
Yeah. You had all the copies.
Yeah, we did it.
I followed that book.
Right.
Didn't deviate from that book. I followed that book. I did some drastic things in the beginning, meaning I told you I had a really specific diet for 1 year, and then I followed that book after that diet. And then when the TLC people were here and I went to the doctor, another doctor who I've been working with, a holistic doctor, he did his testing on everything and said the Crohn's is non-detectable.
All right.
I said, does that mean it's gone? I don't think it's gone. I just think it's not detectable like it was before. I knew that already. I knew it was different. I felt the difference. Now, then I started saying, let me figure out an approach to vitiligo. What did I do? Okay? I already was taking supplements, cod liver oil. I was taking the Recolor. I think we've talked about these things, which is a vitamin that's a combination of all of the vitamins and minerals that are in skin pigment. It's you can go online and buy it. It's expensive. I use that twice a day. It's called Recolor. I started doing something else that I did a liver cleanse. A liver cleanse. A lot of people don't believe in doing liver cleanses. I'm not a doctor. I want to keep repeating that. This is something that we're talking about as friend to friend. I'm not giving you any advice. If it doesn't work for you, I'm sorry. This is what I did, and I did it for, it was a process of 8 weeks.
Is that something you take?
Another book I bought that describes how to do a liver cleanse. There's a variety of ways to do them. I talked to a few different people, including the other doctor that I work with, and he recommended. He said it won't hurt. I'm not going to tell you it's going to help. That's what he said. I'm sure that's what every doctor might say, or it might hurt, it might not. That's what I did. Okay?
What was the first thing you did before Recolor? What did you say?
Cod liver.
Oh, cod liver
That
oil.
is more about the Crohn's than about vitiligo. Okay? That's more about easing digestion. After that, I started taking the Recolor. I had these Ayurvedic pills that I got from a doctor in India, and I started taking the liver pills. Why did I do that? Because the vitamins and concentration of minerals that is in the liver are exactly what help pigment. I read another book that's about 30 years old, and a person in Florida sent me sections of this book, which I have at home, and it was talking about an old, what do you call it, farmer's remedy for vitiligo was to eat raw liver. I ain't doing that. Okay? But I did try those liver pills. I did that for about 8 weeks, and on the 6th week,